as you can see. You can call me Camila if you speak Spanish, otherwise English pronunciation is all good. Danica is with us as well. And Danica, feel free to let the people know who we are, why we're here.
So you might know us as the Gifting Girls, and when we're not helping you get better at client retention, Camilla and I spend a lot of time thinking about how to maintain our level of success and efficiency while frankly doing less. So we're both certified life and success coaches, clinical hypnotherapists, and work professionally as coaches in our respective areas of expertise. So Camilla is a values alignment coach, and she does a lot of work around mindset. I specialize in emotional intelligence and self-awareness. So together we work with a lot of different types of people and a lot of different people doing different things, which is very exciting. So basically what we wanted to do today is we wanted to basically have a lifestyle we love, and then also the ability to rest and spend time with people that we love and doing the things we love while also being, well, badass gifting professionals. So for today, what we really did was we married our passion for systems and our desire to live the kind of life we want to, and brought you this class, which we have titled Spring Clean Your Mental Health, which is basically strategies and tips that allow you to live the life you want while maintaining your status as, well, a badass. So that's kind of what we're going to jump into today.
And since we are going to be talking about our mental health, we're going to actually cool down our nervous system, and seeing as, all these technological Mercury's really in us today, so they think this is going to be perfect. So I'm actually going to you can look at the beautiful ocean for a second. I'm actually going to have you all close your eyes because we're going to do a little meditation before we get into class today. So feel free to turn off your camera, Carmen, if you'd like to. If you don't like to close your eyes on screen, I know some people don't like to. If you don't care, it's all good. Danica will close her eyes with you on screen. So all right, we're going to close our eyes. Breathing pattern we're going to follow is we're going to breathe in for 3, hold for 5, out for 3. And we're going to do this 3 times. We're going to take 3 big cleansing breaths of everything that we had before we came in today. So we're going to go in and hold and out. And then we're going to go again in and hold and out. One more time, in and hold and out. And as you sit there with your eyes closed, I want you to feel wherever your feet are. You might be wearing shoes, you might not be if you're at home. Maybe you're standing on carpet, maybe you're sitting in your dining room with some hardwood. Whatever it is, just notice it. I want you to feel whatever chair you're sitting on, wherever you happen to be seated. Feel supported and let your body relax. I want you to notice if there's anywhere that you can drop some tension. Sometimes we carry a lot of our tension in our shoulders, and we can do a lot just by consciously dropping them closer to our feet. And then real quick, just do a quick body scan. Where's your body at today? Anything hurting? Anything feel great? It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. And then I want you to picture a really beautiful, ornate mirror with a golden trim on the outside. It can be square, it can be round, whatever comes to mind. And I want you to notice it, walk up close to it. Maybe there's some etching on the side. And when you look in the mirror, I want you to notice yourself, however you showed up today. You look fantastic, even if you don't feel fantastic in this very moment. And then just contemplate on the things that you really love about yourself. That could be something physical, it could be you really like your hair, it could be your laugh, maybe it's your kindness. And I just want you to take 10 seconds and really appreciate yourself and ground into the appreciation and the respect that you have for yourself and everything that you've been doing, all the work that you do day in and day out to get here. And slowly you're going to come see your vision, your goal, whatever it is that you're working towards right now. Maybe it's an income goal. Maybe it's more time with your family. Maybe it's a specific person. Whatever it is, I just want you to see them. And I want you to think, I'm coming. And then we're going to do 3 breaths to come out. Same thing. Wish yourself well. You're going to have a great day. We're going to have a great class. Again, we're going to go in for 3, hold for 5, out for 3. Here we go. 1. And out. Again, in and out. Last one. Go biggest, deepest breath you've ever taken in your life. Go in and out. I'll go. Okay, cool. So why do we start with this, right? Before Danica gets into really like the mindset behind it. I think it's really important as we as all of us here have businesses and we're all really go, go, go. You know, Danica and I don't just teach inside our industry, but we do teach a lot inside of it. And one of the things that we talk about the most being really helpful are like what Danica calls like your limbic system resets, right? Just having a couple minutes to be able to cool down your nervous system can be really helpful, especially as you go into working hours. Because for a lot of us, we're so go, go, go. We have so many people that we take care of and think about that we don't oftentimes like have just space to like let our nervous system calm down before we move from task to task, which is really like the mindset behind our class today, right? Like we want to be talking about what should be your number one priority in your life, which ultimately is yourself. And that's not to say that we don't know that some of you have children, some of you have families and people to take care of. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why airlines tell you to put your mask on first before other people, because it's physically impossible to take care of other people when you don't take care of yourself first and foremost. And that's really a huge recipe for burnout and a huge recipe for struggle. A lot of us run around constantly with our gas tanks on E. We're just giving and giving and giving and giving. And we're here to gently remind you that that's great. And we love to give. And at the same time, we have to learn how to take as well and how to be supported. And we really encourage you to take even just 5 minutes. Like if you're an agent, you know, maybe that's 5 minutes before a listing appointment or 5 minutes before you go into the office. I know sometimes you're like, I'm so busy, I don't even have 5 minutes, right? But whatever that time is, whatever that looks like, having some space where you can just like sit and do what we just did, right? Reset your nervous system. Does that mean you have to meditate all the time? No, not necessarily. But even if you just let yourself take 10 of those breaths, you will feel different going into your different tasks because you've just given yourself a little bit of room to just be without having to do.
So one of the reasons we want to focus on you so much here, especially right in the beginning of this class, is because I mean, we know how busy this industry can be and how busy, especially these last couple of years of the market, the way that it is, like everybody, no matter what position you hold in this industry, like everybody has been so busy. And often it's really easy to feel like your business is running you rather than the other way around. So Camilla and I, what we really want to do today is we want to flip that script. We want to make sure that it's you running your business instead of your business running you. Because especially with so many tasks that we have to do every single day as business owners, as industry professionals, like it can be really easy to let all of those kinds of things get away from us and feel like it's just an out of control roller coaster. So we want to flip that script.
Absolutely. And really want you to reflect on why you got into the business that you're in right now. No, you might be super brand new, right? Yes, Carmen, question.
I'm going to go into a private room because I really want to concentrate on this. And I'm in an office that is a lot of people.
Yeah, go for it. Wait a second. Oh, I like that. Cherry blossoms. Look at me. I'm just like always looking into what's behind people. We get a tour, an unofficial.
I just wanted to have some privacy. So this allows me to have that privacy. Here, hold on.
I have the weirdest song stuck in my head for being in this class today, Danica. It's the one that's like, okay, cool.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
It's better for me now. I can concentrate.
Great. That's what we want, right? We'll get to, in a second, we'll get to environment, but yeah, we want you to reflect on why you are in the business that you're in, right? Like all of us have different reasons why we get into the positions and why we do things. Like you might have just made a switch. You might have been here, for the past 10, 15 years, whatever it is, right? There's a reason why you picked it. And you want to make sure that you're aligning your business goals with that overarching why in mind. So for some of you, like you started this business because you wanted to spend more time with your family, right? So if that has to come before the like nitty gritty of how to actually execute your business. And, it's wild because a lot of the times when Danica and I do consults with agents, one of our questions is like, okay, cool. Like, what are you at volume wise right now? And are you looking to grow? And a lot of the times we hear from people like who wouldn't be looking to grow, which Danica and I find really interesting because sometimes the goal is necessarily is not always to do more business, even if, we feel like we should be doing more business, but sometimes the goal is how can I have a better lifestyle, right? How can I work a 4-day week? Or how can I streamline my business to make it more efficient or make it more enjoyable so I can do the things that I really like doing? And we hear all the time, like my clients are my number one priority. And we really want to encourage you to think about how to maintain your clients as a top priority, right? On your business, while also making sure that you prioritize yourself and remembering that our lizard brain, this is where my psych degree comes in. Our lizard brain is programmed to think of everything as life or death. And that really worked well for our ancestors, right? Hello, that's why we're here. So like, hello, there's a tiger, run. But our lizard brain hasn't quite caught up to the fact that many things are not life or death. So when we are activated and when we go, 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 it's very easy for our brains to get into that same space. So if you're running 10 minutes late for a meeting, your nervous system is actually programmed to make that feel like it's life or death, like it's game over, like the physiological sensations that you have in your body. So our goal is that like you declutter your life and your business a little bit so that there's less on your plate and you have less of those like, oh my God, everything's life or death.
So, I mean, our goal for you basically today is lower stress, right? We can't like fly you to a beach, but we can help you access that like internal peace that you get from this lovely scene right here. So this is honestly where I go in my brain every time I'm like, let me just, like you can see the art on my wall, like I'm building that kind of paradise around me all the time. But the stress of an agent is real. The stress of the industry is real. Burnout is really high, especially in this kind of market. So, and I mean, absolutely can take this as for us to say like meditate, breathe, do all of these things, but we're not here to tell you that like these things are necessary or like you have to do it all the time, those kinds of things. We're here today to really get to like the root of the problem. So one of the big questions that we have for you today is what are your stressors? And I think we're going to take a second to do this kind of thing today, right?
Yeah. So that's the first.
I'm sorry. Are you going to hand this out to us, or
do we? Yeah, you'll get a copy of this.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first really step in like lowering your stress levels is really identifying, getting nitty gritty into like what are your stress levels coming from. I love to say, in order to clean your house, you have to see the dirt. Now, does that mean we have to focus on the dirt? Does that mean the dirt is our entire focus? We spend 2 hours ruminating on how the dirt got there to begin with. And oh my gosh, the dirt makes me feel some type of way. No, not necessarily. Like most of us, when we see dirt, we just like clean it, right? So that's the same way that it works in your life with stress, right? The key is to get really specific. It doesn't help you to clean your house if you're like, my house is dirty. What helps you is when you're like, I know I need to do the bathroom today and the kitchen tomorrow and make sure I get the countertops because there's crumbs on it. So the key with stress is making sure that you identify exactly what is stressing you out. Because too often when we ask people like, okay, cool, like you feel overwhelmed or you're feeling burnout, in what way, like what is exactly stressful? And what we hear the most often is work. And I'm like, okay, what about work? Is it like you have a particular client that's stressful? Is it you're learning something super brand new and you don't know like what you're doing? Do you not feel like you got it? Do you have a rough like call? Like what exactly is really the root of that stress? Because that's going to inform everything that we do. And a lot of the times, we'll get to this in a second, but a lot of times people just go to solution based, like I need to solve my stress. I need to fix the feeling of overwhelm, whatever, without actually identifying where the stress is coming from. So that's step one.
So step two is to really locate where these kinds of stressors are manifesting in your life. So like this can really look different for everybody. So I can tell you just like personally, like Camilla and I, the way that we manifest our stress is extremely different from each other, despite the fact that we're basically one person most of the time. So like it doesn't, like everybody is different. So these kinds of different things can manifest in lots of different ways. And one of the biggest, I think one of the biggest challenges that I get a lot from especially my coaching clients all the time is that they have trouble kind of connecting those manifestations to actually where that stress is coming from and where those kinds of emotions are coming from. Because there's a disconnect between recognizing where the stressors manifest and actually what the stressors are. So think about things like, I mean, like we can feel that feeling of overwhelm, right? Like where does that show up for you? Where does that kind of like emotional stress show up for you in your body? Like, do you like grind your teeth? Is your jaw clenched? Are your shoulders like up around your ears, right? And like a really easy way to kind of like recognize the fact that our bodies kind of tell us these things is to think about the idea of like, when you're nervous about something, butterflies in your tummy manifest, right? Like that we've been hearing that since we were really, really small children, which is just a really easy example and a really like universal example of the way that like our bodies are telling us where that kind of stress is. But think about things like feeling like a lack of fulfillment, like thinking at the end of the day, like, do you feel like really good about your day, or do you feel like, it like you didn't really accomplish anything? Think about irritations that you have, right? Like, do you have like a really short temper, even with people who you love and are not actually doing anything to irritate you at any given point of time? Like, do you feel the need to pick fights with your significant others? Like, I think that's always a really good one, right? Because most of the time when I'm like, I just want to like yell at you right now, it's not actually because I want to yell at someone or yell at that person. It's because like something else is going wrong with the rest of my day. Another big one that I think is really common is like seeking external stimuli. So think things like, seeking comfort in short-term positive feelings. So this can be things like scrolling social media or like getting a little bit of a serotonin hit or something like that, from like food or shopping. Like I'm a huge online shopper. Whenever I get stressed out, like you can always tell when I'm stressed out because about a week and a half later, packages start to arrive at my apartment. And I'm like, aha, last week was not a great week. Fantastic. Well, something to look forward to, right? Or like going to the gym or something like that. Like you're seeking those kinds of external stimuli to make up for the fact that the rest of your brain and body are reacting to those stressors rather than addressing the actual stressor, rather than locating the actual thing that's going wrong. You're trying to give yourself a little bit more of a boost outside of it, which actually doesn't solve the internal problem.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like none of these are bad things, right?
No.
Like it's not bad to go shopping, it's not bad to eat food. Obviously, we need it to live. It's not bad to go to the gym, but sometimes we latch on to these things because they do create that like hit, that dopamine is hitting our brain. And like Danica and I really like a funny example that relates to the both of us, but very opposite ways is Danica and I both love to read. But so there's like what we call baseline levels of reading. So if I don't read at all, I'm stressed. Whereas when Danica's very stressed, she reads way more than her baseline is. So she basically spends all day reading when she's not working.
I like
so yeah, she hibernates. So like that's a very clear indicator. Like if I've gone more than 2 weeks without reading a book, like I'm actually actively really stressed out. And that's over like years of like really looking at my patterns with human beings. So you might not know something as specific, hyper specific as that, but when you like start to understand like where it's popping up, like you start to understand like, oh, like I'm doing that thing, it must be that thing. So all right, so now that after you've like identified and you've like really located where it's showing up, the third step is to reduce. And again,
How do you identify your stressors? How do you do it? By watching your patterns over a week?
I would ask the question, like, what about that? Like 6 times. So like, if you ask yourself, like, what's stressing me out right now? And the first word is like, my significant other. Okay, but what about my significant other? And then go from there and like go 6 levels deep into that. And that oftentimes you'll get to an answer that you're like, oh, that's the root of whatever the top like immediate reaction is. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, but like say you have a number of issues that are a new job, separated, all kinds of stuff. So, how do you focus on what it is? I mean, you have therapy, obviously. I guess you have to do that. That's be the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that it really depends on like the person, but not to just give you that as an answer. I think that if you watch your patterns and you notice like, okay, I'm just in a high like life season of stress, like stress is everywhere for me, and you know that like these are the 3 things that are driving it, then the question then becomes like, okay, like not just what exactly about those things, but like, have I actually sat down to process the fact that those are just stressful things for anyone in general? Because a
Yeah.
lot of the times it's us running away from said
Yeah.
things, and we're like, well, I have too many things to do. I can't sit here and be stressed. But like what we talked about with that nervous system regulation at the beginning, like you actually just give yourself 5 minutes. Like, here's the thing, through Danica being my best friend, I have really learned over the years how to actually be angry, because I struggled with this for a long time. And one of the best things Danica ever taught me was, when you're mad, just be mad. And so I had to learn as a grown adult to like sit and stew and just be mad. And what Danica taught me is that anger usually dissipates within about 60 seconds out of the body. If you just let yourself actually be mad and be like, and you can like fume to yourself. And then after a minute or two, like it's like, okay, it's gone. So sometimes stress works the same way. Like you actually just sit and you're like, let me list out to myself all the reasons why this is just stressful. Oftentimes, like that's what we need. We just need to acknowledge that the stress exists there. I do also want to recognize that someone else jumped onto the call while I was talking. And so just like brief disclaimer, feel free to interrupt us at any point. Rana, I hope that I'm pronouncing your name right. If I'm not, please feel free to throw phonetic in the chat and correct me. Feel free to interrupt us. This is like a smaller group, so we get to, be very participatory. And if you don't want to be on camera, totally cool. Just feel free to react using the reaction buttons at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So feel free to give me a
to kind of go into that a little bit more. I mean, like Camilla, I think I always think it's funny when you're like, so what I learned from Danica is I always think that's really entertaining. But I think that one of the big things that I do actively to, because like sometimes it doesn't, sometimes especially if like you don't have that much experience like sitting there, thanks Rena, that was super helpful. I appreciate that. So sometimes it can feel really awkward to just like sit there and be like, okay, let me think about my stress, because that seems counterintuitive. And often what I do for my clients who like need a little bit more of an active exercise is actually I call it chunking it, but basically like I have my clients sit down and we either talk it out or write it out or draw it out or whatever, like whatever way of like getting it out of your system is most effective for you, where you like write down everything that you're stressed about, like about each different aspect of the thing that you're, so like for example, like I know you just started a new job, right? Like, because you're new with ORTC. So that can be really stressful, and being like, I'm stressed about my job, and then writing down every single thing within that you're stressed about can be a really, really powerful tool, because then you can look at it and it's no longer just like swirling around in your brain. It's actually on paper. It's out in front of you. You can look at it and be like, okay, this is something that I don't need to be stressed about, because this will happen with time, right? Like I will learn more about the systems that I'm in. Like I will get clients, right? And then being like, okay, what can I actively take like control of during these different types of stressors. So again, this is the identifying all the different stressors and then locating where they're manifesting. Like this is where the stress is coming from. This is where it's showing up in my life. And then we're going to talk about step 3, which is reducing right now. So like that's just a really great example of an activity you can do to like feel like you're actually taking a little bit more control. So I will tell you, a lot of the reason that I get stressed out is because I have like, control stuff, right? So like, I feel like the need to be able to like be in control of all of the things that I'm doing all the time. And especially with life and with things that like we actually can't control, that can be very stressful and very anxiety inducing. And especially with brand new things we don't know a lot about, because I'll tell you, Camilla and I are starting a new project right now. It can be stressful because we don't know about it yet, right? So being able to be like, okay, what can I do to reduce this kind of stress? What can I do? The first step is being able to be like, okay, this is what I'm actually stressed about. And that can be as easy as just writing it all down. And it doesn't have to be like a list. It can be like, I'm just drawing pictures of all the things that I'm stressed about, or I'm just like listening to a song that reminds me of the things that I'm stressed about. It really depends on the person, because and the reason why I kind of go into that a little bit more in detail is because I always suggest journaling to all of my clients all the time. Journaling is my favorite thing in the whole world, but everybody, when they hear journaling, they're like, dear diary, today you know what I mean? But that's not necessarily what journaling has to be. Like one of my clients journals out loud and she like records it on her phone so she can listen back to it. Or she doesn't, she just needs to talk it out to someone, and it doesn't even have to, someone doesn't even have to listen. It could just be her listening. And one of my clients does watercolors, and one of my clients like goes for a walk and like talks to her dog or whatever. Like journaling can be as whatever thing makes it most effective for you.
writing it or doing something to acknowledge it.
Absolutely. So identifying is like another way, like Camilla was saying, another way of saying that would be just be like acknowledging the problem.
And y'all, I do want to be mindful of the time, but just so you know, we might end up going a couple minutes over. Just letting you know, just with all the delays that we had this morning. So if that doesn't work for you, you're all good. You'll get the recording in your inbox. So you're all good if you have to hop off right at 11. So anyways, yeah, as Danica was saying, great segue. The goal is not that we eliminate your stress, because like life is stressful and that's fine. And it's really funny that, you know, during May, we teach this class a bunch of times. So we're teaching it yesterday as well. And what's funny is that Danica and I proceeded to have a fairly stressful day individually. And so I called Danica at midnight last night being like, dude, I'm like leaving an event and someone broke into my car. And like all I could hear as I was telling her was my own voice going, the goal is not to eliminate stress. Life is stressful and that's fine. I was like, I'm stressed. And then, you know, it passed through and it's whatever. The goal is not that you're like in this Zen robot space where nothing ever bothers you, nothing ever touches you, because we're humans and we have emotions. So like, that's okay. Like, yeah, it's annoying. The fact that I have to spend half my day today, like figuring out my window, that's annoying. But the goal is to just have more tools so you can reduce the stress and make it be easier to manage. So like I've noticed over the years that like I laugh at myself very easily as a human being, and like that helps me really navigate through the stress. So like actually like when I get into those moments where I'm hearing my own voice, like telling myself like, Camilla, the goal is not to eliminate stress. Like I think that's hilarious, and then I laugh, and then like moments over and I'm like, all right, whatever, we'll just deal with it. So what is like actually right? You're like, okay, what are the tools though? So let's get to that. So we have like a bunch of things, and I just love this image. Okay, go. What? I like,
All right. So we're basically our I love this class. We'll teach this class. It's so much fun. So basically we have your 5 new best friends, basically. All right. So these are going to be your 5 new best friends to help you reduce your stress exponentially the more you hang out with them. So let's introduce you to your new crowd.
Bestie number 1.
PFF number 1. Is going to be delegate. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about delegation. You cannot and should not do everything in your life. Now, this can be really challenging sometimes, especially if you're brand new in the business, right? But one of the things that I always like to ask people is like, what systems already exist and what systems need to exist for you to be able to, you know, get everything done, and also to be able to delegate those systems as well. So you cannot and should not do everything. And by the way, when I say systems, I mean like systems also as a form of delegation, which means that like you can do you can have systems in place that will do other things for you as well within your business and within your personal life. So this isn't just within your business. This can also be systems that are in place in your personal life as well. So basically, what do you have or want to do in your life versus the things that you can release from your plate and have others do for you. So I like to think about like the 80% rule, right? So like, I mean, obviously I mentioned before that I like being able to be in control of things, right? So like ultimately in a perfect world, I would do 100% of everything. I would do 100% of my business and 100% of my personal and social life, because that's the person that I am. And I think that I can do it better than almost everybody, except with like specific things that I'm not very good at, which I have Camilla do for me. But even that is a system and a delegation that I have consciously made the decision to release from my plate, because I know that even if I tried my hardest to make sure that I got everything done, I would be physically and mentally and emotionally incapable of being 100% of everything in my life. I just can't do it. Right? So a good benchmark for delegation is someone doing something to 80% of the capacity that you can do it. And the hard part of this is being okay with that. Okay. So the idea is that if you try to do everything all the time, what percentage of the time would you actually be doing 100% anyway? And the answer is probably less than 80% anyway. So if someone can do the thing 80% of the way to you being able to, like 80% of the way that you would be able to do with it, that is a very positive number. So you want to think about like things fall through the cracks all the time. So like, what do you want support in at the very least to make sure that things are getting done? Like, period. Like things are getting done, period.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note here that we do recognize there are things you have to do in your business, right? Like Danica and I have to be the ones who actually speak. already know the things. Like if we have clients, we have to be the ones actually coaching said clients. However, there are admin things, there are technological things that we don't actually need to be the person that's doing that thing, or like the preacher or whatever that's actually doing it. We just want to make sure that it gets done to our level and to our standard. So a great way to begin to identify like where are some things that I could potentially delegate in is if I had a magic wand, right? And I waved my hand and boom, Carmen, you got a personal assistant. Boom, Rick, you got a personal assistant. Boom, Raina, you got a personal assistant. What would you have them do? And do not worry if it's something super small and related to your life. Like if your first thought is, oh my gosh, I would just have someone wash my dishes. I hate washing my dishes. Great. Like that's something that you know that's something that you would have somebody else do. You would want them to do it, right? And you have to allow other people to support you. And again, like Danica was saying, it's not the easiest and the most coziest thing to do, but oftentimes you have to do it. Now, some of you might have assistants in your business, but what you need is an assistant in your personal life, like someone that's actually going to help you and support you on the things that have to happen life-wise. One of the things that I find really interesting is that like we'll talk about this a little bit more in a second too, but like we love technology, and especially in our industry, like there's the new this and there's a new that and there's a new app that does this. But first, we have to actually make sure that those are things that we want help with. Right? Like back in the day, like years ago, a couple of years ago, Danica and I, every time we spoke, we used to say like, okay, cool. Like if you want to chat about gifts, feel free to give us a text. And then over the years, we realized that was not the most efficient way of doing things, because it really heavily relied on what if my phone dies right then? Or what if I lost my contacts earlier this year. Thank goodness that we weren't doing this still, right? Because that wouldn't have been very helpful. So now we have a new system for that, because we're like, okay, how can we do a micro delegation in this process to make this more efficient? Because this is not flowing the way that we want it to be flowing. But first we have to actually ask the question before we go look for the tool or the system or whatever. And alongside that note, we hear this term all the time, right? Like work-life balance. Danica and I hate this term. I believe work-life balance. Like this term is responsible for so much stress because yes, work is a big part of our life. Hello, we are all here technically at work, right? But it is not like 50% or 80% of our life, and then the rest of our life gets leftovers. So instead, we want to encourage you to think of your life like a pie or like a pizza, whatever you like more. And every aspect is getting a slice, right? There's the work one, there's the relationships one, there's your significant other, maybe then there's your family, your health, your spirituality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And for those of you that might be a little bit familiar with value coaching, which is what I do, the easiest way to think about this is like, what matters to me? Like what's actually important to me? What are my priorities? And there might be things, and I guarantee if all of us right now were like, here are my priorities in life, they would all be different. Maybe there'd be some overlap. Maybe some of us would be like, yeah, my family is really important to me too, whatever. But chances are they would be very different. And that's okay, because your priorities can be your own. They do not have to look like whatever the next person's is. But the more you can get into the idea that like, yes, work is a very significant and it fuels the other slices, but it is just that, it is a slice. Then you can start to see how your schedule might be a little bit more organized towards something else that maybe isn't work, right? That is just as important, because your thriving as a human being is just as important as you thriving inside your business. What's the point of making a bunch of money if you can't enjoy it because you're so stressed out about it, right? And now, like, once you know, like, what's vital to me and what's not, the equally important question is that, right? What's not?
Right. So the next session we have for you today is, what can I let go of? What can you let go of? So, and I know, like I mentioned, like this can be really, really challenging. But at the end of the day, we really can't do it all and live the life we want to. So sometimes we have to decide what are less important things that we can let go of in order to focus on more of the important things. Now, especially in business, this can be really, really challenging, because the things that we feel like we can't let go of are the things that we work with, right? But then this is when that previous question really comes into play, like what matters to me the most. So Even if it's just like having someone walk the dog for you or do the dishes so that you can pick up your kids from school and connect with them on the way home, like that makes a huge difference. Because I'm gonna go out on a limb and say for those of you who have kids, like they're probably gonna be on the list of things that matter to you the most. So if they're on the list of things that matter to you the most, then that's where a lot of your time and energy should be going. So like, what are the things you can let go of to make sure that you can actually spend the time and energy you want to be spending on them? And that actually brings me to our second BFF for you. Our second BFF number 2 for you is boundaries. Boundaries are my favorite word. Boundaries are my favorite thing. Boundaries are the thing that I live my life around. I love them so much. What do your boundaries currently look like? So this can really mean, like this really for me is making sure that you're spending time like doing the things that you're doing when you're actually spending the time doing those things. So this can be as easy, by the way, like a boundary, like a really easy first boundary to think about is what is your stop time? Like what time are you done working every day? Right. And this is different for everybody because there are people who are like, I'm in the phase of my business right now where like, I don't have a stop time. I'm just going to like work until I'm done working for the day. And like, if that's where you're at and that's what you want to focus on and that's where you want to spend your energy, that's you. Like, go, do, awesome, create all those things. But especially if you have kids, especially if that's not necessarily where you want your business to be, like it doesn't have to be that way if you don't want it to be. So what is your stop time every day? That's a huge one. And especially for Camilla and I, like we spent a lot of the time doing the like on our lives doing like the hustle and grind culture where we were like, we were working 24/7, our phones were ringing all the time, like we were available 24/7. And at this point in our lives, that is not where we want to be. Nowhere near where we want to be. Like Camilla and I are not available 24/7 to anybody except for like ourselves and maybe our significant others. And even then it's iffy sometimes, I gotta say.
Not 24, 2020.
Maybe like 22. But like this is like that's a really important thing, right? In this market, it is really hard to like to take time off, right? Because everything is so hot. And I gotta tell you, like I see this both from this side of the industry and as a client. Like I just bought a house. We just closed like less than a month ago. And like my agent was texting me at like 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, go to sleep. What are your boundaries? Like as I'm working with my agent like this, love her to death. She was extremely good to work with. I really appreciated all of the work she did. I was still like, we can talk about this tomorrow. Like it's okay for you to sleep right now. But it is really hard because everything is so hot. So defining your boundaries with what works for you and not what works for other people is really, really important. And you should model them after what you need and model them after like what really is important to you and what things that you value. We have a friend who like it is really important to for him to make sure that he takes his kids to school every morning because that's a really good connecting time that he has. So he doesn't start work until like after 9:30, 10 o'clock because that's when he's able to work after he takes his kids to school. And that's important. And that's what he just builds into his schedule. So whatever you decide your boundaries are going to be, whatever you decide that kind of pie is going to look like, it is important to really stick to them because it is really tempting sometimes to like fudge that, especially if like you're brand new to that kind of scenario. But I would encourage you in your planner or in your, calendar or whatever to schedule your boundaries out in Sharpie so that they are immovable. And that is a really important practice that I can tell you takes some time to get really good at. But it is super important.
Yeah, and it can be really like simple things, y'all. Like it's, a lot of times when we say, especially now that so many people are in therapy, which is amazing, but like a lot of times people like boundaries. I'm like, it's meant, or it seems like it's such a huge concept. For me, one of my clearest boundaries, and something that I'm not great at when I'm traveling yet. Danica knows this about me. When I am with my husband at 8 o'clock, my phone goes on the charger and is not looked at anymore. Like that's my personal. Yeah, and like I don't take my phone to bed. I don't scroll in the mornings. Like when I wake up in the morning, go take a shower. And I do that, by the way, because I used to wake up and look at my emails first thing and then immediately feel like, okay, like my day has taken over before I've even like really blinked the crusties out of my eyes. Like, no, I don't do that anymore. So like I'm really good about it when I'm with my husband. I'm like, I'm up in the morning, I'm showering, I'm having my cup of tea. And as I'm sitting down to be like, okay, like that's when I get to work every day. And if you need me before then, I will get to you after. And I'm going to say something that will sound super harsh, y'all, but I really need to hear it like 10 years ago. So I'm going to tell it to you. Someone in a book once said, if someone has a heart attack, in 1 hour, they will still have had a heart attack. But we live in a culture of immediacy and of feeling like we need to be available and responding immediately to every single little thing that happens. And some of my friends are great at this, by the way. Some of my friends like know that like during my work hours, yay, Jody. I love that. I just read that. Like during my work hours, like I'm really not, like we cannot chat. Even Danica and I have this conversation sometimes that I'm like, I'm in the zone right now. So if you want to jump on Zoom and just be on mute and work, cool. If you want to chat, we got to do it after because like I'm in the zone. Others of my friends, by the way, people that I'm not necessarily that close to because they demand immediate responses. And if you don't respond within that same hour, then they don't want to talk anymore. And I'm like, okay, cool. We can't, I can't rock with that. Like that, my schedule doesn't allow for that. And that's okay. And that's the way they live their life. And this is the way that I live mine. So just make sure that you know that like it can be as simple as that. Just like, I'm not going to look at my phone, or, you know, I'm not going to do this, or I'm only going to do this during this time. Whatever it looks like can be different for you. So your new bestie, here we go to like, oh, fun stuff. So like, here's your outlets. So the question here is like, what actually fills your cup? Like, again, if your goal is to create your business so that your kids can have a better lifestyle, are you building your business around that vision, or letting your business take the reins, and your family gets to live through the cracks of time left over?
Wait. Say that one more time, a little bit slower, please.
Yeah. So if your goal is to create a business so that your kids can have a better lifestyle, are you actually building your business that way? Or is your business taking the reins and your family gets the cracks of time that are left over? And like, again, this can be really hard for us to think about sometimes, because at the end of the day, and before I get into that, I guess I'll one more note, like there will always be more things to do. There will always be more people to call. There will always be more problems to fix that will never end. Right. And so we have to be okay with that. Like, and I'll tell you, like our team just moved softwares. We spent 4 months now, like moving over softwares. And I got to a point where every time I saw an email about the software, I was like, oh my God, Danica, I'm immediately stressed out. And Danica was like, dog, you just got to learn to just read it and just like not internalize it. Right. Because the software is not going to be perfect probably for another year. That's okay. We're going to live through it. So making sure that you have like outlets for joy and stress relief is super, super vital. Okay. So I want to introduce you to a concept. LOL. Yes. That's hilarious, Jerry. I'm going to introduce you to the concept of a micro alignment. So this is from one of our mentors, John Israel, who's also one of our really good friends. So this is things that can give you joy and relaxation. And this is having a list so that when you need it, you're ready. So you're going to have a 5 to 10 minute activities list that are going to bring you joy and some stress relief, a 30-minute activity list, and a 1 hour plus. And when you're feeling like crap, you are going to ask yourself, what can I do, or what do I want to do to support myself based on the time that I have available? And sometimes you might just have 5 minutes. So if I have 5 minutes, I'm either going to have a dance party or I'm going to play some Angry Birds. And yelling at the pigs on my phone really just, I'm done. I'm good. I'm back. And I can tell you, she's watching me play Angry Birds and I'm like, just got to beat this round and then we're back. That helps. And that takes literally 5 minutes. And then I'm good. Now you can have activities for like 30 minutes. If I have like 30 minutes, if Danica has 30 minutes, she'll go watch a show. And she'll like let her brain chill out and she'll go watch like an episode of something. She has like 30 to 40, depending on the time. And then if I have like an hour plus, I will go take a bath and I will sit there and not take my phone, or I will watch something interesting and I will just chill and I will just sit there for like an hour and then I'll come out and I'll be like a new human. But again, oftentimes it doesn't have to be this giant production thing that helps us like reset and realign with our day. Oftentimes it can be the smallest thing if we actually take the time to do that. And so often we hear like, oh, I don't have time to do that sort of thing. And I'm like, okay, but if you don't take those 5 minutes at 10 a.m., all of a sudden your whole day feels like crap and you've reached 4 p.m. and you've actually done way less than if you just took an hour and came back at 11. And like, that's just like really like, it takes time to get into those habits. But when you do, all of a sudden you don't feel like you had a crappy day because you had a crappy 10 minutes at 9 o'clock. You have crappy moments, but your days don't get full of it because you have things in it that bring you joy. Now, if you know us, if you've ever taken our class, if you're Jody, you know that Danica and I love mojitos. with a passion. Side note, Danica, found a bar last night in Berkeley. We gotta go. Because I was like, it's like 7 on the list. Anyways,
If anybody has like a lead, by the way, on a really good mojito in Oakland, please let me know. I'm moving there for the first time, and like I need the hookup.
yeah,
I'll find it for you. My sister lives in San Leandro and she used to live in Oakland, so.
done. See, look at that. Carmen will get it for us. So again, so Danica and I have a spare couple of hours and we're co-working and it's 3 o'clock and we're just both like at that point that we're like, we can't actually work because we're so activated. We're gonna go have a mojito or a no-hito. We have things to do afterwards, right? Whatever. But just the process of drinking, like I feel the lime, I feel the spritz, I feel the mint, and my body's like, yes, I love this so much. And Danica and I love mojitos, and that's like something that brings us so much joy. And there are plenty of things, again, that bring me joy that don't bring other people joy. Like, do other people like sitting in a hammock and doing nothing but just like staring at the sky? Not everybody, but that's what brings me joy, and that's why it's important. So, all right, your next BFF is going to be planning.
Can I just really quickly make a quick
Yeah.
note here? I do find it really entertaining that I'm teaching this class about delegation and making sure that you prioritize things and all of that kind of stuff. It took me just to kind of give you a little bit of a background like about me. I have a back injury, so it is really, really hard for me to do things like cook and clean and make sure that like my space is the way that I want it to be. So it took me a really long time to come to the conclusion that like I needed to actually ask for help and like hire somebody to help me do these things. Anyway, I find it entertaining that as I'm teaching this, like I'm literally living this right now because the woman who helps me do these things is currently here in my house doing all those things, and I just appreciate her so much. So just like physical manifestation of like what I'm actually focusing on.
I love that. Yeah, so you want to make sure that you're scheduling all the little things. So let me tell you, a lot of things, the admin stuff in our life takes up so much brain space. Like doctor's appointments, scheduling doctor's appointments. Oh my God.
Oh, it's
Every day,
ridiculous,
like-
yeah.
Right. You're like, oh God, I gotta do that.
Well, it takes forever to get through doctors these days. It's just stupid. But
Right.
anyways, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So,
Or getting like your tires, like, you know, when you need new tires and you're like, oh my God, I gotta go take the car. And so if you can get into the habit of scheduling everything, including that, like not even just going to the doctor, which is what people think that I mean by that, but I mean like, hey, here's an hour and I'm going to schedule my doctor's appointment, my dentist appointment, and whatever other appointment I need. I was watching a video of someone the other day talking about their schedule because of course I think about this all the time, so I watch videos on it too. Anyways, they were saying that they have one day a month called their admin day, and that day they reserve, and during that day all they do is schedule all their appointments, all of the things that need to like go onto the calendar all happen during that day, and they get caught up on like their life admin, and then they go into the month fresh. And I love that. Danica and I have not looked at our calendars yet to see if we can make that happen for like a whole day, but wouldn't it be great, Danica, once a month we were just like all of our life admin?
no, that's a great idea.
So again, just scheduling the little things, y'all, are the things that take up the most, and having enough buffer, right? That's something that I still work on, is giving myself enough buffer. Danica can tell you I'm overly ambitious sometimes with my time, and I will be like, I can do 4 things and then drive to this place and then see this client and then make it here in an hour and a half. Because like, dude, cannot actually do that. But I will say, yesterday I did pack and label and get to the post office within 14 minutes, even though I had to change my shirt because I had stuff all over myself. So I would like to say I am a very efficient person, but I've learned that, right? Like having enough buffer time and putting more padding in than I need. Like, I don't think going to the post office was going to take me an hour, but most days it does. So just having that like room in your schedule so that your schedule actually feels breathable and not like so constrained that when one domino falls, the rest crumble, right? Like, you know, if you have kids, pickup line is wild, drop off line is wild. So should you probably schedule an appointment 5 minutes after you're out of pickup? Probably not, because you're not going to get there most days. And it's just going to cause more stress. Another thing that you can do, depending on you, your business, your life, is get into the habit of window scheduling, which Danica and I are big fans of, which is when you like make an appointment with someone and you're like, hey, okay, cool. Depending on traffic and like my life that day, I'll get there between 11 and 11:15 or 11 and 11:30. And that way, if everything's going super smooth and you get there at 11, great, you're on time. If everything is crumbling, there's an accident, you get there at 11:25, you're still on time. So obviously you can't do that for everything in your life, but you can plan like, hey, I have to go to this place, so I want to get there between this time and this time, and plan your day around that so that you have some breathing room. Because again, in the US, we live in a super like time punctual. So like we feel like if it's not right at 3, then you're late, which is not a bad thing. But if you can build some breathing room, it can help you, right? Now, there are things, again, listing appointments, can't do that. But you can say like, hey, we're going to get to this thing to set up for an open house between this time and this time. And that way everyone has a little bit more breathing room. For those of you that have teams and have like multiple people, that also helps when you have multiple people. Like Danica and I, we need windows. Otherwise, she is stressed and super early, and I am stressed and like 5 minutes late. Like it does not work if we're like right on one dot. So, okay, cool. The other thing I was going to tell you is to schedule your social media time. To use it as a tool instead of going down a rabbit hole every day. Right? Like for a lot of you, you got to plan your social, you got to post stuff on Facebook, you got to comment on things. Great, but put it in your schedule. I'm going to do this from 8 to 9 and then I'm done doing it. And then you log out or close it out. Right? Think about things like your email response times. Like people, I know people that live with their inbox just scrolling on one side of their screen, and it stresses them out all day. And I know other people like myself that are like, hey, from this hour to this hour, I'm in my emails, and then I'm not. And then from this hour to this hour, I'm back in my email, and then I'm not. So during that time, all that I'm focused on, I'm not focused on solving every problem. I'm focused on solving this number of emails that I can get through in that hour. And then I'm gone doing the other things I need to do. And then I'm back in my inbox. And I'm usually in my inbox like twice a day. But for some of you, you might need to be in your inbox 3 times a day or 4 times a day. But if you spent half an hour in your inbox every couple of hours, 4 times a day, you're still spending 2 hours of your day, 25% of your working hours in your emails. And if you need more than that, then plan for that. But don't spend your whole life just letting it scroll, because then the whole world is just like yelling at you, and that's stressful. And for those of you that like to work at night and you're like, I don't want my people to like get used to me replying to emails at like 11:30 at night, because that's when my kids are asleep and I like to work from 11 to 1 in the morning. You do you. Use the schedule send feature on Gmail. I don't know if Outlook has this, Danica, we should find out. But you can use schedule send on Gmail and you can make it go out the next day at whatever time you want it to go out. So you can be doing all your work and then you can let it roll out whenever. Then it looks like you're working at whatever time. So for some things that works really well, especially the non-urgent things, so that you don't train people that they can expect a response from you within like 0.3 seconds of them sending it to you. All right, last thing. Danica, hit us with our 5th bestie.
Your 5th best friend is going to be your environment. So where we are affects how we feel. This is not like a new concept. Like we're basically just taking this and applying it to like everything that we've already talked about. So obviously chaos lowers productivity and also impedes your sense of peace throughout the day. So if you want to
make, and that's scientifically studied, just yes, emphasizing that.
Yes. So you want to make sure that you're evaluating your workflows throughout the day, right? Like looking at your physical and your technological workspace. Like, is your phone set up the way you want it to be? Is your workspace set up the way you want it to be? Does your space mean that is your space a place that you enjoy being in? Like, are you dreading going to the office every day because like it's a mess and everything is ridiculous and like you can't handle being there? Like that's a huge aspect of reasons why we're like already stressed out going into work, no problem. Thanks, Tasha. So like that's a huge thing, right? So can we do spring cleaning in these kinds of environments? Okay, can we do these like organizational, like identifying, locating, reducing all of these different processes in like the physical space that we're in every single day? The other thing that I will mention here is like, is your space a place where you enjoy being in? Like Camilla and I have set up our workspaces to be like places that we like feel really, really good in. So like the art on my wall makes me really happy all the time. And I get to look at it in a Zoom call every single day. You know what I mean? Like I get to see these things and they give me joy, even just like being able to like look at them, right? This wall, by the way, is my art wall. That wall is my plant wall. So I get to just look at nice things every single day, all the time. So like things like organizing your desk. So not only that it looks nice, but also that like this space is optimized for like the most productivity and efficiency possible. One of the things that actually Camilla is incredibly good at is organization, to make sure that it's not only good for like it looks nice, but also that it like actually works. So like she reorganized my fridge one day and it was like my life was revolutionized. And I was just, because I was just like throwing stuff into my fridge, like not even thinking about where it went. It was just like, okay, it fits here. And she was like, okay, I put everything that you use every day like in a place where it's easily reachable. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about it. But like it's these like little things like that that make a huge difference day to day. We're talking fridge, we're talking desk, we're talking phone. Like, is your phone optimized? What?
Do you do computers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, go in and help people organize the files that need to go in what folders and stuff like that. I'm a little overwhelmed that way.
We can
I
absolutely.
can, yeah. Sometimes you just need handholding. So here's something that Danica and I have gotten really good at is sometimes you just need someone to be with you while you do the cleaning, to like know that you're actually doing the cleaning and stuff.
Or
and
doing it correctly,
Yeah.
Or just even guidance on how to do it,
Yeah. What, and like really whatever.
Well, here's my number one tip
Oh,
is
sorry.
like figure out like what folder, as far as technology, what folders do you actually need, and do you need subfolders? And then this is going to sound brutal, but this is what you got to do. You got to open up your downloads, your document, every folder that you have in your computer, and you got to go one by one. Do I need it or do I trash it? That's the first step. You declutter first and then you organize second. But like oftentimes it's that decluttering process that we're terrified of because and I will give you a personal example. Last month, Danica knows, I was like, hey, this is my technological cleaning weekend. I'm going to do nothing this weekend other than sit with my phone and with my computer, and we're going to clean everything out. And I deleted 3,000 things from my computer, like 5,000 things from my phone. My notes app was crazy on my phone. I had 900 notes.
Oh yeah.
Every time I had an idea, I would just be like, terrible. But it's organized. I have like maybe 30 now because I now use that general notes thing for just like little things, and then I like organize it at the end of the week. But like that sort of thing is super, super helpful and can really, really affect the way that we feel. Or even just updating your technology OS operating systems on your stuff so you don't get the notification that's like, you need an update, and you're like, I know I need an update. Like
what about like cards? Like I'm just like, I'm new in this business and I'm getting cards all the time because I'm trying to, target certain agents.
Sure.
And so how do you organize them in your computer?
Do you have a CRM?
No, yeah, I have Salesforce. And so I'm putting them in the Salesforce.
Yeah. So putting them into Salesforce and making sure that they're actually updated there inside your CRM and then throwing them away.
Throwing them away. Okay.
Yeah. Like if you're not actually looking at them, they're just taking up space and they're just stressing out existing. And then we have piles and piles and piles. I'll be super honest. I don't give cards away super often anymore. I give out my QR code. People can scan it and download my contact info and then send me theirs. I'd rather someone live in my phone than be like a giant stack in my life. Yeah. I will note sometimes like, hey, I have to follow up with these 5 people so that when I sit down on my CRM, I know what tasks to assign to myself. On my phone, but I don't like physical cards. It's very rare that we deal with these days because it's just Danica and I got too stressed out by it. So, okay. So do you want to wrap?
What?
Yeah. No, Danica was just saying the rifling through. We had this whole thing once in a car where like it fell out of my hands when we hit a stoplight and cards were everywhere, and I was like, I'm done.
Okay.
We're breaking up with this. So, okay. The last thing that I did want to say is like expectations are really important to monitor here. You want to make sure that you're patient and know that it's not all going to happen overnight. Like changing these things, changing our habits, changing even just the way that we look at and we approach stress takes time. And you want to make sure that you watch out for the shiny object syndrome, which is really common in our space, right? When we own businesses or we're in the real estate industry, is someone gives you a great idea and you're like, that's a great idea. And then you try one thing or you don't schedule enough time for it and then it doesn't like work. And so you're like, oh, never mind. And then you start again. Ooh, that's a great idea. So make sure that you actually have enough time to test things to see if they work. Right now, I'm demoing a new personal schedule for my work flows. And it's very different. And it's very weird. I'm only seeing clients like 3 days out of the week, which is very weird for me. And I'm like, I don't know if I like this yet, but we'll see. And if I don't like it, I'll change it. But I need to actually test it for like a month to actually see if it's working well for me. So the biggest thing, y'all, if you never give yourself enough time to measure success, you'll be stuck in that constant cycle. And because, we love you guys and we really appreciate you being here throughout the technology, throughout Mercury, just throwing down hammer today. we have brought you a chance for some free Cutco, a free knife courtesy of us, just for being here and just as a thank you. So it'll go to 1 out of 3 of you. So great chances. All you have to do to get entered into the drawing is to scan the QR code that's right there on the screen. If you don't have your phone, I'm also going to pop in a bit.ly link into the whatchamacallit? The chat. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. This is why I don't type and talk at the same time. Okay, I'm gonna throw this in so that you can click into it. All you have to do to get entered into that drawing, y'all, is just fill out the little form. It's very simple, very easy. The 2 questions that people always ask us are, will I mark it to you if you give me your email? No, it's just so that we can let you know if you won the prize. And second, for those of you that do want to connect either about gifting or about promotional product, whatever we do, like in the systems design world of actually helping you like with your gifting and your client retention, you can let us know on the form itself. So Jody will send that out too after class. And the big question that I wanted to end with y'all is always our favorite question, which is, what are you building, right? What choice are you going to make today that's going to have a massive impact in your business and in your life 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? Because it really does start today. Danica and I genuinely encourage you to take time to really think about, what you want to accomplish and what you want to get done today, like what step you're going to take, even if it's just sitting down and writing down all the things that stress you out about your life right now, whatever it is, just make sure you take some type of action. And as always, we do end with our favorite Maya Angelou quote, which is that at the end of the day, people won't remember what you said or did. They will remember how you made them feel. So we encourage you to make yourself feel wonderful and feel supported, most of all, so that you can go out and radiate that support and that love to other people, because that's the way that we chill out collectively. Cool. Any questions?
Can you guys put down, like you said, you had a mentor, somebody Israel, and anybody, do you have any, good recommendations for different kinds of people to help?
For what?
Are you coaching legal, when you say you have clients, do you coach one-on-one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll Danica, throw your, I'm gonna pop my info in the chat real quick because I forgot to put it in earlier. Crushed it. We usually have a slide with our contact info, but today it's decided to disappear, as things do, so it's all good in the hood. All right, there's my contact info. Feel free to screenshot it. I'm always available to talk, hang out, drink a mojito about that life.
Okay.
Danica Grady is her name, is Danica Grady. Congratulations.
I don't know how to make it like go on different lines.
Oh, you're so funny. But yeah, we really enjoyed having you in class today. We look forward to sending one of you a free piece of Cutco just as a thank you. And if you would ever like to connect about this, I definitely feel free to